About 2 months ago, I was introduced to a new influencer on TikTok. Despite only creating her account this past January, she's amassed well over 4 million followers. Becca Bloom, real name Becca Ma, is the daughter of 2 incredibly wealthy parents. Prestige reports that Becca Bloom comes from Silicon Valley's richest families and is the daughter of Simon Yiming Ma and Heidi Cho, who are the co-founders of Camelot Information Systems, an IT services company with headquarters in China. Bloom's parents have a net worth that is alleged to be somewhere from $700 million to $1 billion. Bloom, in her own words, grew up in a small town called Atherton, California, which is considered to be one of the richest towns in America, with homes averaging over $7 million and a median annual income about $250,000 a year, while averaging around $600,000 a year. Property taxes are so high in Atherton that the town has 0 businesses, as it doesn't need to rely on any commercial taxes. Bloom attended a private school in Atherton with a tuition that at the time cost about $40,000 a year. She then went to UCLA for business and economics, and often touts about how hard she's worked to carve out her own path, apparently working even 80-hour weeks. In her very first interview, she told the Wall Street Journal that she has spent the past 3 years working for a pretty traditional finance technology firm in a role that is client-facing. Since she began posting online, Bloom has received huge swaths of support. You'd be hard-pressed to find a negative opinion of her in her comments. One of the most common comments you'll see under her videos is how she is a rich person who rich is right, along with thousands of other comments parasocially praising her. Why would someone this wealthy want to become an influencer? More importantly, why are so many people getting down on their bare knees for this extremely wealthy woman? We're going to discuss all of that and more on today's episode of Let's Get Put on Another List. The word influencer typically elicits a negative response, to say the least. I even made a video a few months ago about all of the issues with influencers. It's safe to say I don't like them either. Many netizens' disdain stems from the fact that influencers are very annoying. They flaunt their wealth in a gaudy way, they are uninteresting, and they seem to know that they're out of touch, intelligently capitalizing off of the rage induced in their audiences when they post about how much money they make and spend. To many, Becca Bloom seems to be an anti-influencer. Not in any sense of the real meaning of that, but rather because she simply isn't as annoying. She speaks very softly and doesn't use any buzzwords. She rarely does brand deals, and she seems to be acutely aware of her immense wealth, which, all of these combined, is apparently the bare minimum requirement for people to lose all sense of what little class consciousness they had. Where regular influencers come across as tacky and self-centered in their riches, Becca seems down to earth, likable, and relatable to many. Bloom was even listed in Time's 100 Creators of 2025, wherein they wrote, "What sets Bloom apart from the majority of #rich talk, a corner of the platform devoted to unapologetic displays of wealth, is her tone. Bloom brings a sense of curiosity about the world around her and a healthy dose of humor when it comes to the more surreal parts of the rich life. In between videos of her plating sushi or shopping at Hermes, the 27-year-old doles out thoughtful perspectives on the finance industry and how to get ahead at work, as well as dating and life advice." Bloom is often praised for giving audiences a real peek into the life of the mega wealthy. What sets her apart from other influencers to some people on the internet is how unabashed she is about her wealth. It's obviously just a part of day-to-day life for her. Whereas for influencers who are newly rich, they haven't yet learned how to be rich, to be classy. It's a tale as old as The Great Gatsby. While one of the richest men in the world is marrying their fiancé in a tacky fashion, Bloom's recent wedding, on the other hand, to a lead tech manager at Amazon, was elegant and minimalist, showcasing how rich people should carry themselves with class. A comment under Becca's introduction video read, "This is old money rich, classy rich, not the stuff we see shoved in our faces all the time." You may have noticed the young internet's obsession with this idea of old money. Becca is the perfect wealthy influencer to fit into this mold. Old money is what Becca has. Generational wealth that has been collected and hoarded for decades or centuries. She's unlike other influencers who weren't born into wealth. She's soft-spoken, contained, and elegant, classy. Of course, the glamorization of generational wealth is disturbing, as the passage of wealth, money, property, assets through generations has played a major role in financial inequality. It keeps wealth in the hands of the ruling class for literal generations, while the rest of us, born into the working class and with no access to generational wealth, continue to struggle. Max Berlinger wrote for GQ, "Personally, I find it fascinating that young people, in the midst of unprecedented wealth inequality, told that they'll never own a home, that the American dream promised to them may well be dead, are dressing up as the people who, in essence, ruined it all for them. On top of this, I find the use of the word classy to describe Becca to be extremely concerning. Katie Waldman wrote for Slate in 2014, "Used earnestly to compliment generous behavior, classy retains the flatus of a humble brag. It announces that the speaker knows the difference between having class and not having class. Hard to make that kind of distinction unless you've got some class yourself." When Bloom posts videos of herself spending $200,000 on luxury sweatshop clothing, it's elegant, it's classy. But when a poor person spends on something that's not a necessity, they're trashy. The term is just used to perpetuate a class hierarchy, where the rich are inherently developed, calm, intelligent, and kind, while the poor are everything else. It's only another form of adhesion to the status quo. Dress a certain way and never act out of turn, or else we'll villainize you. Rich people like Kim Kardashian have been mocked for years because despite their immense wealth, they are still considered classless. A New York Times guest opinion writer wrote about Kim's April 2014 Vogue cover. After the cover dropped, people threatened to cancel their subscription, but it was a provocation worth making. Vogue's editor-in-chief, Anna Wintour, later said, "I was told that it was trashy, that it was beneath us. What was Vogue coming to?" she recalled. As much as those with more understated taste might turn up their noses at the crassness of the Bezos-Sanchez weddings display, tacky is very clearly carrying the day. Maybe hating on tacky oligarchs is itself just elitist. It's doubtful that anyone attending the wedding cares very much about what those of us who weren't invited think anyway. Lauren Gray put it very well in The Odyssey online. While the elevation to class is technically open to everyone willing to comply with its unspoken standards, classy still remains out of reach for impoverished peoples because of their inability to avoid the markings of poverty. An argument can be made that class is shown through virtuous attributes which cannot be bought by wealth, but the vocab is still rooted in the idea that goodness and virtue are inherently linked with a higher social standing. Bloom told the Wall Street Journal, "The intention is to be myself. I think that's why it works." Lane Florsheim writes in the interview piece, she's aware of how her content comes across to the majority of reviewers. "I'm not trying to be overly relatable," Ma says, "but I'm also not trying to be unrelatable. My content's not necessarily meant to be aspirational as I see it," she'd said earlier in the day, "and I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live." Her goal, she says, is to break concepts down for women and hopefully help them advance in some way. Now, I think it may be obvious to those of you who follow me that I haughtily disagree with the praise that Becca has been receiving, but let's watch a couple of her videos together so that I can properly outline my issues with her content. In one video, Becca showcases a breakfast made for her by her chef the morning after she got food poisoning, which includes shrimp, eggs, and caviar. You know, I think that could also work as a good hangover cure. At the beginning of the video, she reaches for a fork out of a hideous egg silverware contraption costing a mortgage payment. Another one showcases her cat's breakfast, consisting of fresh salmon, tuna, quail eggs, caviar, cod, and flowers for presentation. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm already starting to become quite incensed. In another, she and her mother visit an Hermes store to design a custom Birkin bag. You know, the exclusive bags that cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars a piece? Most of her videos depict her not-so-simple life in a very simple way. She makes editing mistakes and talks very plainly to the camera about her very not normal life. One person commented under a video of her showcasing the gluttonous homes her and her husband considered purchasing, "I hope she never gets canceled because who else is going to let us into the rich lives like this?" Despite people praising Becca for being not like the other influencers, she is still very much like the rest of them, showcasing her disgusting overconsumption multiple times on her TikTok. A few weeks ago, she posted a 12-item Hermes haul, netting a total somewhere around $200,000. A user comments under this, "The way she opens Hermes is the exact same as I open Shein. Queen!" Go watch my recent video on overconsumption if you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, but overconsumption like this isn't aspirational, especially not at this financial scale. It's disgusting. You shouldn't aspire to have a ton of money just to buy a bunch of shit. One of her most infuriating videos was her talking about how she wanted a new laptop case that didn't come in the size of her laptop. Instead of, I don't know, not buying the case, she decided to purchase a completely new laptop. And here I was worried about a silly little computer that cost just a few grand for my job. All of this for a case that is literally just a solid color in a scale print. Don't worry though, despite this, Becca is still virtuous. She posted a giveaway for the cases after this. How could we ever thank her for her generosity? By following, commenting, and liking the video, of course. choked on my spit. When she decided to get the new iPhone 16, because you always got to get that upgrade even if it cost millions of people, she was generous enough not only to buy a separate color for herself, but another iPhone for one of us plebeians. For one of her wedding gifts from her parents, she was gifted a Van Cleef necklace costing $125,000. In this video, as with all of her other jewelry unboxing videos, she treats the necklace like it's nothing, as if this one piece of jewelry couldn't change someone's entire life. Bloom presents herself as someone who is new to social media, saying she doesn't know why anyone would watch her videos, and making editing mistakes frequently. This is all intentional. Bloom is very clearly putting on a persona for TikTok. Do you seriously think that someone who works in tech doesn't know how to use the in-app TikTok editor? She presents herself as humble and naive in order to come across as more palatable, and so many people have fallen for it. One person said underneath a TikTok video that was doing overtime sucking up to her, "She gets grateful, not bragging." Because posting about your lavish and gluttonous lifestyle that is intentionally out of reach to most of the world is grateful. How exactly are Bloom's videos any different from Michaela Nogueira's, such as Michaela's recent $200,000 designer haul? Is it literally just because she comes across as less annoying than Michaela? Beyond that, on a surface level, I just don't understand how people enjoy Becca's content. It's very boring, and her only talent is literally showing off how wealthy she is.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm showing you all what my chef has prepared me for this morning's breakfast. I have my plate right here. That's my plate. Let's get the food ready. First off, my chef has prepared me these boiled dodo eggs. I think that he got them from the local conservation. I guess they're trying to unextinct the dodo bird. I have no idea, but I can't wait to try these. Next, we have a forsythia flower hand-picked from South Africa. This is just for presentation. I'm so excited to eat all of this. My chef prepared all of this just for me. And I'm gonna take this one. My dog and I are actually going to be eating the same thing this morning on matching Chanel plates, so I'm so excited. Isn't that so cute? Anyway, I'm really sorry if, the content is not good. I really hope you're all enjoying it. Again, I'm so sorry if...
Oh my God, she's so relatable. I love her. I believe that Becca's demeanor is a huge reason behind why people excuse her privilege and gluttonous lifestyle. But I also believe that there is another darker reason behind all of her praise. People idolize the rich. There is a common refrain in liberal spaces online that those who suck off the top 1% do so because they believe that one day they will achieve a similar fortune. While this is certainly part of it, the more prevalent thought behind their worship is hierarchy. They truly believe that Jeffrey Bezos did something so special that he is worthy of hoarding $250 billion worth of assets, and at the same time that they did something wrong for them to still be struggling. Capitalism is built off of inequality. It is impossible for someone to have more wealth than billions of others without it being intentional, designed by the system, and exploited by them. There is no way to exist in a society like this without a portion, whether small or large like it is now, of people being purposefully pushed into poverty so that the few can succeed and live lifestyles that are intentionally exclusive. There's a reason why everyone cannot be rich. We lionize wealth. It symbolizes all of our deepest values: selfishness, greed, individualism, superiority. And yet, that can only be because we are fragile, feeling little and inferior deep inside. In America, the rich are lionized, adorated, and worshipped. There's something like a bizarre aristocracy of the oligarchs, and Americans curtsy and bow politely, like servile things, before a rich person. Americans, weirdly, unique among nations, equate wealth with all the great virtues: intelligence, courage, sophistication, wisdom, creativity, compassion. They have really bought into the myth that a wealthy person is a better person. Americans have internalized the values of capitalism, greed, selfishness, and so on, but they are not rich, and they will never be rich. Some of you may know that I deleted my TikTok in January, so you may be wondering how exactly I'm even aware of Becca Bloom's existence. Well, 2 months ago, a creator I follow and generally agree with, Hannah Alonso, posted an extremely tone-deaf video about Becca. I'm not bringing this video up to call for Hannah's cancellation or to say that you should stop supporting someone the moment they say something that you think is wrong. I bring Hannah's video up to use her as an example of how Becca's intentional propaganda campaign succeeded. Hannah's video about Becca received a lot more negative attention than the rest of her content usually does, making it clear that even some of her most loyal audience members felt that the messaging in her video was wrong. Now, she did acknowledge this misstep in the comments of her video, which is good. but I think that her reaction to Becca's content is still very important to analyze and criticize. If you don't watch Hannah Alonso's channel, she is someone who frequently makes anti-MLM and anti-influencer content. For her to make an entire video essentially glazing a multi-millionaire influencer was extremely odd to much of her audience. I will say though, that I wasn't very surprised. I like her videos a lot, but Hannah comes across as the kind of creator who makes very palatable videos that can appeal to huge audiences. She's not necessarily going to say anything too controversial or take a strong stance on very political topics. This is not inherently a bad thing, and I don't say this to demean the work that she does. But the need to reach some kind of middle line commentary falls very flat when it comes to discussing topics like the class divide and capitalist exploitation. You don't have to say something nice about everyone, and you don't need to water down your commentary to praise someone like Becca. Clearly, a lot of her audience felt the same way, as most of the comments under the video are criticizing her for her reluctance to take a strong stance against this wealthy influencer. Hannah's closing comments in the video are what I found to be the most egregious. First, she says, "It's easy to be happy for someone who is in a more privileged position than you when you feel like they deserve it." First of all, I'm not happy for people in this kind of position. In fact, I loathe them for purposefully benefiting off of a class divide and keeping me poor. Secondly, nobody this rich deserves it. Maybe Hannah herself needs to develop some class consciousness. I've said this before, and I will say it again. People who are this wealthy did not earn their money. If you make the median American income $40,000 a year, you would need to work 25,000 years to make $1 billion. To make $700 million, you'd have to work 17,500 years. I don't give a flying fuck if someone cured cancer, which none of these people have done, since wealthy people do not get to where they are by being good people. No one deserves this kind of wealth. Hannah then goes on to say that a disgust for the wealthy in society is understandable, but that the money isn't necessarily the issue, but rather how people with money conduct themselves. Now, to a certain extent, I agree with her sentiment. I don't agree with praising Becca, but from an observational lens, which I think is where most of Hannah's poor comments were coming from, people will flock to those who push them down if they are charming enough. It's like an abusive relationship. However, from a class-conscious lens, the issue is with the money. Honestly, when it comes to the surface level of Becca, I'm sure she's a perfectly agreeable and pleasant person to be around. But you can't remove the rich from the person. Why would I want to hang out with someone who wears $1 million worth of jewelry? Money that I could live off of for 25 years without having to work a day. How nice someone is has no bearing on whether or not they deserve their wealth. No matter who you are, you do not deserve to have hundreds of millions of dollars. Finally, Hannah claims that Becca's openness about her lifestyle is inspiring, though I'm not sure why, since she was born into generational wealth and didn't have to work to get to where she is now. Even if she was self-made, it doesn't change the fact that we shouldn't aspire to be like her. And it doesn't change the fact that this kind of content can't be inspiring, since only a marginal amount of people will ever be able to live like Becca. It is intentionally designed that way. Either you're lucky or you intentionally profit off of exploitation. But regardless, if you get rich and stay that way, you are still benefiting from a system that exploits. The only way someone can rich right is by not being rich anymore. Part of this inspirational analysis from Hannah comes down to the fact that Becca posts very basic life advice videos, which apparently negates all the other harm her and her family have contributed to the world. In one video, she gives first date advice. In another, how to make yourself heard and stay calm in stressful situations. One video from her starts with her saying about how she hates how men make financial concepts hard to understand. Which, sure, that's condescending and misogynistic. Nothing wrong with calling this out. She then explains 3 financial concepts in girl terms, like comparing a stock buyback to taking down thirst traps on Instagram to make the rest seem more valuable. People were all over this video. The top comment read, "Now this is a girl's girl!" Is it though? To further prove my point, Becca made a video recently discussing women who have had their work stolen by men. Now, I think it's great to bring attention to this since it is a common trend in history. Albert Einstein's wife, Melieve, was said to have been the real person behind some of his most important scientific contributions. However, it's the fact that Becca Bloom is a source of this message. Sure, she can post whatever she wants, and some of you may think I'm just being extremely nitpicky at this point, but I find it incredibly disingenuous that this mega rich woman who profits off of the exploitation of poor women is being praised as some kind of girl's girl. Becca is trying very hard to be relatable in some sick kind of way, but she's just like every other influencer, maybe even worse. To further prove my point, she recently even signed with United Talent Agency, which represents anyone from influencers to famous comedians. Variety exclusively reported on this. UTA has signed luxury fashion content creator Becca Bloom for representation in all areas. Becca's rise is nothing short of extraordinary, says Ali Berman, co-head of UTA Creators. She's built a global community in a short period of time that's deeply engaged, and her fan base continues to grow every day. Becca is a true innovator. We're excited to continue fueling her growth here at UTA. Apparently, she's not rich enough. For now, she has to become wealthy in the attention economy as well. She's already done a couple brand deals. On her wedding day, she did a sponsorship with Lancome, who provided the makeup for her wedding day look. Another sponsored video of hers was with the hair care brand Olaplex. At the beginning of the video, she says it breaks her heart that in many women's shelters, one bottle of shampoo is often shared by over a dozen women. So, bless her generous heart, she and Olaplex mutually decided to donate over $30,000 in hair care to women's shelters. This is influencing, not opening PR, but giving it to those who can't afford it. Pure class. Becca forcing Olaplex to donate $30,000 in order to work with her is kinda sweet. Listen, don't get me wrong. I think it's great that the brand is donating products to women's shelters. But guys, you know that she is making money from this, right? She's not taking this sponsorship out of the goodness of her heart. She's getting paid, likely double the amount of the product being donated in order to influence all of you to buy this overpriced hair care. I have no idea whether or not Becca donates to positive organizations or charities, but I can guess that it's not a lot, since she wouldn't be able to live a lifestyle like this anymore if she gave away most of her income. Even if we assume that Bloom's net worth alone is much less than her parents', let's say $100 million, $30,000, of which she is not even donating herself, is about 1/3000th of her worth. You can't possibly ask her to give away anymore. How else will she be able to serve her cat fresh caviar? I've always had a negative view of the rich. I think it's impossible to not have a negative opinion of those in better positions than you when you grow up in financial struggle. Well, unless you have Stockholm Syndrome, that is. I will be honest and say I've never been someone who's idolized the rich. Sure, I've always wanted money. It's hard not to when you are suffering financially. But despite my disdain for the rich, I never had a firm grasp on how the rich made their money, or how bad financial inequality really was. I'd say what started me on my radicalization journey was a video that my 9th grade history teacher showed the class one day. You might have seen this video before. It's a very popular YouTube video from 12 years ago showing wealth inequality in America. Of course, at the time I watched it, it was only 5 years old. I'm getting old. Anyway, the video shows a few different graphs of wealth distribution, what socialism would look like, what Americans think that the current distribution looks like, and what they would prefer it look like. Then, the creator reveals what it actually looks like. It was a powerful video and a pivotal moment in my life. My jaw dropped, and as soon as I got home from school that day, you better believe that I pulled the video up to show my mom. I literally couldn't believe it. These few people at the top have all this money while I sit in a cold house because my mom doesn't want to burn too much coal. I was disgusted. While the creator in the video didn't explicitly call for some of the more radical actions that I personally believe need to be taken to fix financial inequality, at the time, this video was revolutionary to me. Now, we're currently seeing a repeat in anti-working class policies that rival Ronald Reagan's, especially with the gluttonous, hideous bill. Reagan and his juniors, like Trump, promised tax cuts for the poor while hiding their true intentions in huge omnibus bills like the gluttonous, hideous bill. As it was with Reagan and trickle-down economics, the worst effects of this bill will be felt years down the line. Inequalities compound upon each other for decades, with presidential successors like Bush and Trump helping to spur on Reagan's initial plans for inequality even further. In discussions like this, we often compare wealth inequalities, but wealth is only a measure of the assets someone has: retirement funds, savings, property, vehicles, stocks, and so on. The concept of wealth is, in itself, capitalist and promotes the accumulation of wealth by people, even determining their value as individuals based on this metric alone. While wealth inequality is a useful tool to show how much money and assets the top 1% hoards, while the average people with nothing to their name can barely afford one singular place to live, metrics like income and wage inequality are also extremely important, as they show the present reality of how much capitalists are making versus the working class. Inequality.org reported in 2022. Over the past 4 decades, the richest 1% of Americans have enjoyed by far the fastest income growth. Between 1979 and 2021, the average income of the richest 0.1% of households, a group that today represents just over 12,000 households, grew nearly 27 times as fast as the income of the bottom 20% of earners. They also found that the top 1%, averaging just over $3 million a year, made about 139% more than the bottom 20%, $22,000 a year. And that, between 1980 and 2022, the bottom 90% of US earners had wage growth of just 36%, compared to 162% for the richest 1% and 301% for the top 0.1%. With Trump's pro-rich policies, it's likely that these gaps are only going to widen even further. And while all this is happening, you have millions of people following and praising someone from the ruling class. I don't doubt for a single second that Becca's comments aren't extremely moderated, seen as most of this discussion surrounding her outside of TikTok is extremely negative. However, the fact that so many people are still being genuine in their appreciation for her in her comments section is concerning. If people continue to view rich people as having some kind of special trait that makes them more valuable than the rest of us, then we will never develop a conscience enough to fight for ourselves. Overconsumption, excess, and greed are not things that we should aspire to. Becca Bloom is not better than any of us, and she doesn't deserve to have millions of dollars worth of jewelry, to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on clothes in one go, to benefit off of exploitation while the rest of us live in squalor. Wake up and come to the realization that the rich are not your friends.
Is this working? Okay. Hey everyone. I'm so glad to be on live with all of you. I usually don't do improv things like this. Is that what they call it? I don't know. My management told me this would be a great way for me to connect with all of you, so I'm really excited to be here. I wanted to thank you all for the immense support that I've received the past couple of months. I honestly never could have expected any of this. I also wanted to come online to tell you all that to celebrate, I'll be flying to the Amazon headquarters for an exclusive brand deal with Jeff Bezos. Oh my gosh, you all are so kind, sending me gifts. Oh, thank you all so much. I'll take you all along for the trip. Don't worry.
Oh my god, she's coming here. I'm so honored.
Alright, well that's it for me, that's it for this video. I'm curious as to what your opinions on Becca Bloom are, and I'm also curious as to what you thought about this video. So please, comment down below anything you want to comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you like me, you can subscribe. I post videos talking about literally whatever I want to talk about. So if that sounds like your thing, make sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell so you know when I post a video. I'd like to give a shout out to my Patreon members who are part of my Alpha and Delta tiers. Thank you so much to Dallas Andrade and Lisbeth Ruiz. I truly appreciate your continued support. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of my Patreon members. If you want to become a member, the link will be down below. That is the best way to directly financially support me, and it means a lot to me. So if you have the spare change, you know, give it to me. Anyway, I really hope you all enjoyed this video, but more importantly, I really hope I see you in the next video. Please, you'll be there, right?